The presidential suite of Halcyon Private Medical Center was a cocoon of polished silence. The only sounds that cut through the sterile stillness were the rhythmic beeping of heart monitors and the low hum of expensive climate control systems. The bed at the center of the room held Malcolm Reynolds, 42 years old, tech billionaire, and one of the most powerful black CEOs in the world. His body lay still. To anyone watching, he was comatose, the victim of a tragic private jet crash. But Malcolm Reynolds wasn't asleep. He had woken up on the third day, and he hadn't moved since. Malcolm had always trusted his instincts, that sixth sense built from decades of navigating hostile boardrooms, predatory investors, and the subtle racism that tried to stall his ascent. The moment he woke up, dazed and burning with pain, he remembered the final seconds before the crash. A sharp hiss of pressure, a flicker on the dashboard, the pilot's scream, then darkness. Now, 18 days later, he had learned to slow his breathing, steady his pulse, and control every involuntary twitch. He wasn't faking unconsciousness. Out of fear, he was hunting. Someone had tried to kill him and he intended to find out who. The answer walked in precisely on schedule. Every morning at 9:15, "Victor, we have to move faster," said a voice outside the glass door, feminine, tense. His wife, Julia Reynolds. Malcolm's fingers itched, his rage controlled by will alone. Inside the room, nothing moved except the soft fluctuations of the heart monitor. Victor's voice followed hers, smoother, colder. "The board will activate the incapacitation clause next week. One more vote, and the company is legally ours." Julia sighed. "And Diana, don't worry about her. The Bar Association will be calling her in for a little chat. Fraud, bribery. She'd be too busy defending her license to get in our way." The door hissed as it sealed again. Malcolm's heart thundered inside his ribcage. His suspicions were no longer just whispers in the dark. His own blood, his own wife, they hadn't just tried to kill him, they were finishing the job slowly, legally, from the inside out. That night, a new presence entered the room. Her steps were light, measured, confident, but careful. "Good evening, Mr. Reynolds," said a clear voice. It wasn't sweet or false, just calm, professional, real. "I'm Maya Ellis. I'll be your night nurse." Malcolm's eyes stayed shut, but his mind sharpened instantly. Maya moved around the room, checking vitals. She smelled faintly of lavender and hand sanitizer. She was efficient, methodical. No small talk, no humming to herself like the last one. She adjusted his IV drip, scribbled a note in the chart, then paused. There was silence for a full minute. Then her voice dropped to a whisper. "I don't know if you can hear me," she said, "but I need to tell you something. I just be here." Malcolm kept perfectly still, though every nerve fired awake. "I was hired 3 nights ago to replace Nurse Sylvia. They said she resigned, but I reviewed your chart last night. Something's wrong." Her voice tightened, but remained low. "Your sedation levels are off protocol, well beyond what's standard for your injuries, and your reflex logs were manually altered. I'm not just a nurse, Mr. Reynolds. I'm a forensic neurologist, and I can tell you, someone is deliberately keeping you from waking up." Malcolm nearly broke his facade. His jaw twitched, the tiniest flicker. It went unnoticed. "I don't know who's doing this," Maya said, now seated beside him, "or why, but I'm going to find out, and I'll help you, even if it means losing my license, or worse." She stood, adjusted the 4 again. "I'm dialing back the sedation slowly. No one will notice. You'll start regaining control in a few days." Then came the sound of the door swinging open. "Just taking vitals," Maya said, her voice snapping back to clinical sharpness. A new voice, male, smooth, chilling. "Thank you, nurse." Dr. Lauren. Malcolm's blood turned to ice. In the stillness that followed, Malcolm lay there, absorbing every detail. Maya, MayaEllis.com, brave, smart and unafraid to act alone. A stranger had just risked everything for him. Maybe, finally, he wasn't alone. 3 nights passed. Maya returned each evening at 7 p.m. sharp. She always checked the door twice, always carried a pen light tucked into her collar. She was careful but not paranoid. And each night, she whispered to him, updates, observations, warnings. By the 4th night, Malcolm was ready. As she adjusted his pillow, Maya said softly, "I need to know if you can really hear me." His right index finger twitched twice. Maya froze. "You're awake." She breathed a long pause, She moved to block the camera view from the corner ceiling unit and leaned close. We need a code. 1. Twitch for yes. 2 for no. Blink once, if you understand. A blink dot, then another. Maya covered her mouth, almost laughing. You beautiful bastard, she whispered. Malcolm's heart filled with something unexpected. Hope. The next day, she brought cards with letters and numbers. That night, they began spelling out messages, one by one. It was slow, frustrating, exhausting. Esbotio Joelia plus Viskio. Maya stared at him, her eyes hardening. Jesus Christ. She rubbed her temples, looked around, and then whispered, What's Project Aurora? Malcolm spelled slowly, RENIGRGINERGY, LOWIINCOM, Muanite. Smile leaned back, stunned. That's what this is all about. That's why they'd rather see you dead. A single blink. The plan was clear now. The accident wasn't random. The coma wasn't unfortunate. This was execution by bureaucracy, hiding a murder in plain sight. On the 6th night, Maya arrived looking tense. I have news about Diana Coleman, she whispered. Your lawyer. They've hit her with fake charges, bribery, document fraud. She's being dragged before the ethics committee. Malcolm's eyes flared with fury. Don't worry. I sent her an anonymous warning. She's too smart to walk into that trap unprepared. Malcolm blinked once, grateful. Also, Maya continued, Victor's getting bolder. He comes in every day now, checks the charts, asks questions, always with Lauren. She paused, biting her lip. I recorded them. I have the audio. The next evening, Maya entered with a sharper look in her eyes. I brought someone, she said. The door closed behind her. A woman in her 50s stepped inside, stern-faced, wearing civilian clothes, but with a presence that screamed authority. Mr. Reynolds, she said softly. I'm Dr. Chen. Maya told me everything. Maya closed the blinds. Dr. Chen approached Malcolm's bed. We have 30 minutes. She conducted a silent, equipment-free exam. Reflexes, pupil dilation, response tests. When she finished, she looked up at Maya. He's aware, alert, no sign of brain damage. He's being chemically restrained. This is criminal. Malcolm blinked once, his breath calm, controlled. We need proof, Maya said. I have a plan, Dr. Chen replied, but it's risky. We'll need full cooperation. Malcolm twitched. Once. Yes. Dr. Chen nodded. Then we begin tomorrow. By the next night, the room no longer felt like a prison. It felt like a battlefield. Every beep, every footstep in the hallway outside, every flicker of hallway light under the door became part of Malcolm Reynolds' new strategy. He wasn't just surviving anymore. He was moving. It started small. 2 distinct twitches of his right index finger, barely noticeable, but deliberate. Maya caught it immediately. She didn't flinch or gasp. She simply locked eyes with him and whispered, Okay, we're doing this. She didn't ask how long he'd been awake. She didn't panic. She adapted instantly. The next night, she returned with index cards printed with bold black letters, numbers, and symbols. She laid them out on a clipboard. We'll keep it simple. I'll point, and you blink. Malcolm blinked once. Maya offered a tiny, tense smile. Okay, 1 blink for yes, 2 for no. Ready to spell. A single blink. She pointed to the first row. IF, no blink. G, blink. She narrowed it down. G, nu, aga, nu, E, nu, jata, nu. Blink. Letter by letter, word by word, it began. Kiele lead. Mei stared at him, her voice caught in her throat. They tried to kill you. Blink. Then again. Jeolaya Visita. Maya pulled back, her breath shaking. Your wife and brother. Jesus Christ. She stood in silence for a moment, running her fingers through her curls, pacing once across the room. They're going to pay, she said finally. But we need more. Malcolm blinked hard. He wasn't done yet. She returned to the board. Ayuera. Maya frowned. Aurora. She read more as Malcolm spelled, slowly, painstakingly. RENAWIEA INRGY, LOWILOR, me. PROJEC. Understanding hit her like a thunderclap. She stared at him, then slowly sat down. They tried to kill you, because of a clean energy project. Blink, because it would cut into someone's profits. Blink. Victor and Julia. Blink. Maya clenched her fists. That's monstrous. But Malcolm wasn't finished. BORDDOS and TKONOW, of course, Maya murmured. If the project was secret, they wouldn't see the risk. But Victor and Julia did. She looked down at the clipboard, then at him, and now, they want to finish what they started. Take the company, kill the project, bury everything. Nights later, Dr. Chen returned. This time, she brought equipments, small, discreet, battery-powered, a portable EEG scanner, a reflex testing kit, a digital camcorder the size of her palm. Malcolm, she said gently, using his first name for the first time. We need to capture proof you're neurologically sound, quiet, precise movements, eye tracking, reflex response. Malcolm responded with a steady blink. She placed the camcorder and began. She recorded. Maya monitored the hall and muted the cameras with a remote signal scrambler. Reflexes are intact, Dr. Chen noted quietly. Cognitive response normal. He's not brain dead. He's awake, fully aware. Sedation levels, Maya asked. Dr. Chen scanned the monitor. High, deliberate, way beyond therapeutic protocol. Whoever's running this treatment should be investigated for medical malpractice if not attempted murder. Malcolm's finger moved again. Dr. Chen leaned forward. He wants to speak. They resumed spelling. Unedited PROF, we'll get it, Dr. Chen said firmly. But it has to be bulletproof. They won't go down without a fight. Malcolm blinked once. The following morning Victor stepped into Malcolm's room with the air of a man inspecting his inheritance. Poor bastard, he muttered, tapping the bed rail. Still in there, huh? Not for long. He turned to Dr. Laurent, who stood at the foot of the bed with a clipboard. We on schedule. Dr. Laurent nodded. The final report will show persistent vegetative state. Irreversible. Victor grinned. Perfect. 1 more week and we vote. He glanced toward the door. You're sure about the nurse? She's just a nurse, Laurent said dismissively. Eager young won't be a problem. What neither of them noticed was the tiny wire tucked behind the IV stand. Maya's recorder captured every word. That night, she and Dr. Chen listened to the audio. He's calling me a child while he tries to erase a man's life, Maya said through gritted teeth. He's overconfident. Dr. Chen replied. That's our advantage. Maya brought in new supplies, clean files, backup batteries, and a set of paper files stolen from the nurse's station. Inside were 2 charts, one with Malcolm's real reflex results, and one with falsified versions. This is it, Maya said, laying them side by side. They've been fabricating reports for weeks. Time to bring in the third piece, Dr. Chen said. Diana Coleman. Across the city, Diana sat alone in a windowless office, the walls closing in, emails, legal notices, meeting requests from the Bar Association. All fake, all coming at once. She'd smelled the setup, and now it was tightening. Her phone vibrated. Unknown number. A text. They're targeting you. It's about Project Aurora. Get ready. She stared at the message, her breath shallow. Diana Coleman wasn't easy to rattle. She'd helped Malcolm build his empire. Mentored by the best, she had fought tooth and nail to break into a corporate legal world that didn't want her there. She'd earned her place through grit and strategy. Now, someone wanted her silenced. She stood and walked to her bookshelf, pulling down a leather folder marked Private MR. Inside, copies of the original Aurora documentation and the sealed shareholding structure updates. Malcolm had started drafting before his crash. She tucked the folder into her briefcase. It was time to fight back. Back at the clinic, Maya whispered into Malcolm's ear. She's in. Diana knows something's wrong. She's not running. She's ready. Malcolm blinked once, then spelled THNK while Maya smiled. Not yet. We're just getting started. She sat beside his bed as Dr. Chen reviewed the final footage from the neurological tests. When the board meets, Dr. Chen said, we need to have everything lined up. Visual proof, testimony, backup documentation. We'll have it. Maya said, Elizabeth Okafor is on the board. She's loyal. She stalled a vote. We need at least 1 more week, Dr. Chen added. He'll be strong enough to walk by then, if we keep doing the physical rehab. They looked at Malcolm. Blink. Area Diacrostown. Victor stood in the center of the Reynolds Tech boardroom, presenting a folder to the chairman. The situation is unfortunate, he said, voice smooth as silk. My brother's condition is ... irreversible. But the company can't afford limbo. The stock is sliding. Investors are panicking. We must act. Elizabeth Okafor narrowed her eyes. Where's the latest medical report? She asked. Victor handed over a copy, signed by Dr. Laurent. I'm sure you'll find it. Thorough. Elizabeth glanced at it, but didn't open it. Not yet. She looked at Victor and smiled coolly. Thorough, I'm sure, she said. But you'll forgive me if I request an independent review before we vote, just to be certain. Victor's smile faltered. For a half-second, of course, but time is of the essence. And truth, she said softly, is worth a delay. In the clinic that night, Maya placed a hand gently on Malcolm's chest. They're stalling the vote. Elizabeth bought us for days. Malcolm blinked twice. Maya paused. No, he blinked again, then spelled VOTEMOVT. She gasped. How do you know? He blinked once. Visitio Mararo Wire stood up, fire in her eyes. Then we go now, she said. She turned to Dr. Chen. Get Diana, get the files. We do this tomorrow. Malcolm blinked once. Ready. The morning light filtered in through the half-drawn curtains, casting long golden bars across the polished floor. Inside the quiet of Malcolm Reynolds' room, the battlefield had shifted. He wasn't just thinking anymore, he was moving. His fingers curled slightly, more deliberately this time. His right leg flexed beneath the sheets in response to whispered commands. His eyelids no longer twitched, they focused, trained, sharp. Maya Ellis stood beside him, stopwatch in hand. 3 seconds of sustained toe movement, she murmured. Writing it down, we're getting there. Malcolm blinked once, satisfaction. She gave him a quick nod and leaned in closer. You're going to walk in there, Malcolm. Not just talk. Walk. I can feel it. The corners of his mouth shifted almost a smile. Later that day, Maya met Dr. Chen in the staff stairwell, away from the cameras. She passed her a small encrypted drive. Vitals, footage, prescription logs, and security audio. Maya whispered. Every interaction with Victor and Laurent, including that last one, where he said vegetative like it was a done deal. Dr. Chen tucked the drive into a small metal case. Perfect. I'm running a duplicate to Diana tonight. She's building the legal case. I'm building the medical one. They moved up the vote, Maya added. It's this Friday. 2 days. Dr. Chen swore under her breath. That's not a vote. That's a damn ambush. We're ready, Maya said, teeth clenched. We just need Elizabeth to hold the line. Meanwhile, across the city, Elizabeth Okafor stood at the edge of the Reynolds Tech boardroom, watching Victor present his version of the truth. Ladies and gentlemen, Victor Hayes began smoothly. We must face the reality of this tragedy. Malcolm is no longer able to lead. His condition is irreversible. The time has come to transfer executive authority for the good of the company. He handed out manila folders to the 12 board members seated around the table. We will vote on Friday morning. With your support, we'll maintain continuity and investor confidence. Elizabeth remained still. She didn't reach for the folder. Instead, she studied Victor's body language, the too casual posture, the calculated smile. He was trying too hard. Something was off. That evening, Diana Coleman received a private message from an encrypted number. Report couriered to your apartment. Be ready for Friday. You will not be alone. Inside the package, verified neurological footage, audio of Victor and Dr. Laurent plotting the fraud, financial transactions between offshore accounts and Laurent's private clinic, a signed statement from Dr. Chen confirming deliberate sedation without cause. Diana stared at the evidence, her heartbeat thundering. Then she picked up her phone and made a single call. Elizabeth, she said, it's time. Let's stop pretending Malcolm is gone. At Halcyon Medical, the room had become a training ground. Maya pushed Malcolm harder each night. Seated stretches, finger dexterity drills, visual tracking with colored lights, grip strength tests. On Wednesday evening, he managed something extraordinary. He stood, only for 5 seconds, only with Maya holding his arm and the force still attached. But he stood. She let out a strangled laugh. Goddamn, Malcolm, you really are indestructible. His grip squeezed her wrist, gentle but firm. Thursday morning arrived like a silent storm. Maya slipped into the room, her eyes sharp. They're coming, Laurent and Victor, to do one final assessment before the vote. Dr. Chen had already prepared. She stood near the bed in scrubs, clipboard in hand, posing as one of the attending physicians. Maya pulled a privacy curtain across the room and slipped an earpiece into Malcolm's ear. This is it, Maya whispered. Stay still, don't react, no matter what they say. The door opened. Dr. Victor said as he entered, Is it true? No improvement. None whatsoever. Dr. Chen lied, her voice as cold as ice. Laurent approached the bed, nodding. Somberly, he's completely unresponsive. From behind the curtain, Maya silently activated a recording device. Victor leaned close to the bed. You did your best, brother, he whispered mockingly. But you always underestimated me. Malcolm's pulse steadied like steel. Let's prep the press release, Victor said. We'll keep the language respectful. Coma, no chance of recovery. Long-term care transfer. You know the drill. The two men left, satisfied. Behind the curtain, Malcolm opened his eyes. He didn't blink. He stared straight ahead. That night, Dr. Chen, Diana, and Maya gathered in a sealed, camera-free office on the hospital's sublevel. The war room. Dr. Chen loaded the files on a secure tablet. Diana has clearance for board access tomorrow. Elizabeth's got 2 other members on our side. That gives us 4 votes. If we swing, just 2 more. Victor loses. I'll be with Malcolm, Maya added. If he can walk 20 feet by morning, we do this the dramatic way. And if he can't, Diana asked. Then I wheel him in, Maya said. And we press play. On the recordings, either way, the board will know the truth. Dr. Chen passed them each a flash drive. Everything's backed up. Nothing can be erased. Diana nodded. Tomorrow changes everything. At 2 a.m., Malcolm sat on the edge of the hospital bed, drenched in sweat, breathing heavy. His wood, heavy at the base, was gripped in both hands. He stood again. 5 seconds, then 10. Maya steadied him. You don't need to be perfect, she said, voice barely above a whisper. You just need to walk through that door. Malcolm looked up at her, eyes fierce. Blink. Ready. The boardroom of Reynolds Tech gleamed with cold precision mahogany walls, silver fixtures, and a 12-seat obsidian conference table polished to a mirror shine. The room had seen billion-dollar mergers, hostile takeovers, and national policy briefings, but it had never seen a ghost walk through its doors. Until now. At 9:58 a.m., Victor Hayes stood confidently at the head of the table, flanked by his legal advisor and 2 investor representatives. Julia Reynolds sat beside him, clad in a tailored navy blue dress, pearls at her neck and grief on her face, calculated, rehearsed. The board members flipped through the folders in front of them. All 12 had received Victor's motion to invoke the incapacitation clause. They were here to finalize it. As you've all seen, Victor began smoothly. The latest report from Dr. Laurent confirms permanent neurological damage. It's a tragedy, but leadership must move forward. I agree, Julia added, dabbing the corner of her eye. No tears came. Elizabeth Okafor sat at the far end of the table, arms crossed, face unreadable. Victor smiled thinly. Any objections before we proceed to vote? I have one final question, Elizabeth said. Victor raised an eyebrow. Of course. Why isn't Dr. Laurent here today to explain his findings in person? There was a flicker, just hesitation in Victor's eyes. He was called away on a family emergency. But the report is as false as your concern, said a deep voice from the door. Heads turned. Time stopped. Malcolm Reynolds stood in the doorway, alive, standing, in a fitted navy suit, cane in hand. Beside him stood Maya Ellis, Dr. Chen, and Diana Coleman. All eyes widened. Julia's glass of water slipped from her hand, shattering against the polished floor. Victor's mouth opened, but no words came. This is impossible, he muttered. You said I was in a coma, Malcolm replied coolly, stepping forward with slow, deliberate steps. You said I was brain dead, but here I am. Silence, except for the sound of his cane tapping once, then again, across the room as he approached the head of the table, and Dr. Laurent. Malcolm continued, is currently being interviewed by the authorities on charges of falsifying medical documents and attempted murder through criminal negligence. He stopped at the table's edge. Dr. Chen stepped forward, placing a thick file in front of the board. As an independent forensic neurologist, she said, I confirm that Mr. Reynolds has suffered no permanent damage. He was sedated unnecessarily, against medical protocol. This report includes signed logs, chemical breakdowns of administered sedatives, and neurological assessments taken covertly over the last week. Diana moved next, opening her briefcase. Here are financial records showing direct transfers from an offshore account linked to Victor Hayes into Dr. Laurent's private clinic. The payments began 3 days before Malcolm's plane crash. The board murmured in shock. This is slander, Victor snapped. Fabricated by a disgruntled nurse and a few rogue doctors. Maya stepped forward, calm/unshaken. "I'm Maya Ellis," she said. "Registered nurse, certified forensic neurology consultant, and digital evidence analyst." She placed a tablet on the table and tapped play. Victor's voice filled the room. "Keep him sedated until the board vote. Then we can let nature take its course." Dr. Lauren replied, "He won't wake up. He's not supposed to." Gasps echoed around the table. Julia's hands trembled. That's been edited." Victor barked. Diana calmly stepped forward again. "We anticipated you'd say that." She laid down a chain of custody, log, independent audio verification, and IP trace data, linking the original file to the hospital network. It was airtight. Then Malcolm took a final step forward, voice steady, commanding. "You plotted to kill me," he said, eyes locked on Victor. "You faked my medical records, bribed a doctor, and used my wife to make it believable. Why?" Answer. Malcolm turned to the board. "Because of this." He nodded to Maya, who pulled up the final document, the blueprint of Project Aurora, a renewable energy platform designed to cut electricity costs by 80% in underserved communities. "You've heard rumors. Now here's the reality, fully tested, ready for pilot." Julia and Victor tried to bury it. "Why would they sabotage something like that?" asked a stunned board member. "Because it disrupts powerful contracts we've held for years," Malcolm replied. "Because it shifts our focus to social impact, not just investor returns. And because the people it helps don't write campaign checks or sit on Forbes lists." Julia finally broke her silence. "You're still delirious," she hissed. "You don't know what you're saying. You're weak, damaged. Spare me." Malcolm cut in, his voice steel. He turned to her coldly. "Is your wedding ring in your purse, or did you already pawn it?" A long silence. Then he added, "You were redecorating my house a week after the crash." Security entered quietly. "The police are in the lobby," said the head of security. "Shall we escort Mr. Hayes and Mrs. Reynolds?" Victor's face paled. He backed up a step. "You don't understand. If you launch Aurora, we lose decades of legacy contracts. The market will implode. You'll destroy what we built." Malcolm stared him down. "It's not destruction, it's evolution. And the vote on Aurora passed last night while you were finalizing my obituary." Two guards approached Victor and Julia. This time no one defended them. No allies, no alibis, only silence. As they were led out, Julia looked back. "You'll regret this." "No," Malcolm said simply. "I almost died regretting not doing it sooner." The room stayed frozen for several long seconds after the doors closed. Then Elizabeth Okafor stood. "Well," she said, "shall we resume the meeting?" She walked to the head of the table and gestured to the seat Victor had occupied. "Malcolm, I believe this belongs to you." He sat slowly, steadying himself on the cane. For the first time in weeks, he exhaled without fear. After the meeting, Diana stood beside him on the balcony, overlooking the skyline. "I've reinstated your full executive authority. The Aurora project is now officially greenlit, and Victor and Julia federal charges." She handed him a final envelope. 30% of Aurora's future revenue. You can allocate it anywhere. He looked at Maya, standing quietly nearby. "Then, name the foundation after her," he said. But Maya blinked. "Wait, what?" "You saved my life," he said. "Your name deserves to be part of what comes next." Maya didn't answer right away. Her throat was tight. She simply nodded. That night, alone in his office, Malcolm turned on the lights. The old skyline shimmered, but it felt different now. The shadows no longer held fear. The empire was still his, but now, he had a new mission, and he wasn't doing it alone. 6 months later, the skyline above Reynolds Tech headquarters gleamed with something new. On the rooftop, dozens of sleek solar panels shimmered beneath the morning sun, clean, silent, and revolutionary. The Aurora project, once buried by greed and conspiracy, now pulsed with life above a building that had once tried to destroy it. Inside, the changes ran deeper than solar grids and rebranded mission statements. The walls bore new murals, photos of field teams working in underserved communities, local students testing solar kits, hospitals switching on emergency lights powered by renewable energy for the first time. And in the heart of it all stood Malcolm Reynolds, live, alert, and more determined than ever. 78%. Maya Ellis reported as she entered his office, tablet in hand. Malcolm looked up from his desk. That's the power cost reduction. In the first 3 neighborhoods, she confirmed, smiling. The pilot rollout in South Bronx, West Oakland, and Southside Chicago is outperforming projections. Even the skeptics are impressed. Malcolm nodded, then gestured to the window. And the investors? Maya sat across from him. Stocks up 42% since the announcement. Turns out, doing good can be profitable. He smiled faintly. So much for the social impact kills growth narrative. She raised an eyebrow. When you're the one redefining the rules, the old narratives stop applying. Diana Coleman entered moments later, holding a sleek black folder. The foundation paperwork is finalized, she announced. The Reynolds Ellis Foundation for Ethics in Healthcare is now officially live. Maya blinked. You used my name. Malcolm leaned back, his voice calm. You saved my life, protected my company. You deserve more than a thank you. You deserve legacy. Maya swallowed hard. I'm not used to legacy. I'm used to being background noise. Well, Diana said, setting the folder down, your background noise no more. The foundation's mission was simple: protect the vulnerable. It would operate independently, auditing patient care in private facilities, providing legal support to whistleblowers, and installing secure systems in hospitals to prevent unethical sedation, manipulation, and cover-ups like the one Malcolm had survived. They'd already secured partnerships with 3 major medical institutions and 1 international NGO. 30% of Aurora's net revenue will go to the foundation, Malcolm declared, in a board meeting later that week, not as charity, as repayment. The room was silent for a moment, then applause, and this time, it was genuine. Not everything was settled. Some shadows lingered. In a high-security federal prison in upstate New York, Victor Hayes sat in an interview room, hands cuffed to the metal table, eyes focused on a small, grainy photo of a man in a suit. He was involved, Victor said, leaning forward. Big energy exec, quiet player. He was the one who pushed us to bury Aurora, said it would destabilize the sector, said we'd all lose. He helped fund the sabotage, and there are more. The agent across the table didn't blink. Why tell us now? Because I'm already buried, Victor said, bitter. Might as well burn the others down too. When news of Victor's bargaining attempt reached Diana, she brought the file straight to Malcolm. There's a network behind the attack, she said. Victor wasn't smart enough to orchestrate all of it alone. Malcolm studied the documents, names, financial transfers, emails hidden behind layers of shell companies, a map of corruption. He didn't speak for a long time. Finally, he said, "Let it sit." "Sit?" Maya asked. "You're not going after them?" "Not yet," he replied. "We act when the time is right, not when we're baited." Maya narrowed her eyes. "You think this is bait?" "I think Victor is desperate, and desperate men say whatever they think will buy them breath. But we don't play that game. Not anymore." Instead, Malcolm focused forward. He and Maya walked through the new Aurora Research and Impact Center, an open, buzzing space filled with engineers, data scientists, and policy developers. The faces in the room were as diverse as the city's Aurora. "Served no legacy hires," Maya commented, as they passed a team sketching out a microgrid model for rural Kenya. "No silver spoon prodigies. We gave them one rule," Malcolm said. "You don't have to come from privilege. You just have to come with purpose." They passed a hallway where a quote was being etched into the wall. Maya paused as she recognized the words. "True strength isn't how much power you accumulate, but how you respond when that power is threatened. It is in our moments of greatest vulnerability that we discover our true essence." She looked at Malcolm. "Those were my words." "I know," he said, his voice quiet. "I wrote them down." Every night, they stood in silence, watching the team work. Later that evening, on the balcony of Malcolm's office, Maya leaned on the railing while the city pulsed below. "You could have just rebuilt what they took," she said. "Restored the company, licked your wounds. Why bother changing everything?" Malcolm watched her for a moment before answering. "Because I died in that room, Maya. Not physically, but the version of me who thought profit was purpose. The man who fought to be in the room, but forgot why it mattered." He looked back out across the skyline. "I built something powerful, but I didn't build something meaningful. Aurora changed. He changed that." She nodded slowly. "So what now?" "Now we build for others," he said simply. "Not to be remembered, but to be useful." That night, The security feed in the main lobby captured Malcolm and Maya standing beneath the new foundation plaque. The camera panned upwards slowly, capturing the quote again. Then a quiet, simple line etched beneath it, dedicated to those who chose integrity when silence was easier. Far away, in a remote village in Ghana, a child flicked on a light powered by an Aurora solar kit. In Brazil, a maternity clinic's backup power kicked in seamlessly during an outage. In Detroit, a single mother paid a utility bill 1/3 the size of the month before. The ripple had begun, and the giant who once lay still in a hospital bed now stood, watchful, and fully awake. If you watched until the end, comment the word rebirth, subscribe to the channel, and share this video with your friends and family.